Doorknobs, a seemingly simple fixture, can reveal surprising stories about the past. What might the doorknob styles of an old house tell us about the people who lived there, or about the time in which it was built? Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of vintage doorknobs and what to look for when you spot them. Be sure to stick around till the end of this video because we have a special treat for you. Let's get started! We'll start our exploration with the Victorian era, a period known for its exuberance and During this time, doorknobs were considered a symbol of wealth and status. Think about the grand houses of your favorite period dramas. Can you picture those heavy wooden doors opening to reveal shining brass knobs? They're not just functional, they're a design statement. Back then, knobs came in a variety of materials, including brass, bronze, and even porcelain. Styles ranged from simple and elegant to intricately designed with floral patterns and mythical creatures. Knobs were often made from metals like brass and bronze, which were prized for their durability and aesthetic appeal. The choice of metal would often signify the homeowner's social standing. Bronze, for instance, was generally more expensive and thus became a symbol of wealth and power. Bronze knobs would be found gracing the doors of the elite, while brass knobs, although still considered luxurious, were slightly more accessible to the middle class. As we step into the Edwardian period, a subset of Victorian era, we find a distinct shift in style. Remember the grandeur of the previous era, but now refined and modernized. The Edwardian period saw the rise of more minimalist design. Arts and crafts movement was at its peak, emphasizing hand craftsmanship and natural materials. Doorknobs during this time reflected this change. Simple, clean lines replaced elaborate detailing. Natural materials such as wood took center stage, sometimes left unpainted to highlight their texture and grain. We also saw the emergence of geometric patterns and shapes. Instead of florals and scrolls, think of crisp, clean designs that echoed the era's fascination with all things modern. Next up, let's talk about the Georgian era. When we think of Georgian homes, images of symmetrical beauty and classical elegance come to mind. Now, let's focus on the doors of these grand townhouses and the handles that adorn them. Georgian door handles were not mere functional fixtures. They were design elements meant to complement the overall aesthetic of the home. They played a crucial role in giving each room an air of sophistication and refinement. Back then, handles were often crafted from brass, selected not only for its durability, but also for its malleability, allowing artisans to create intricate designs with ease. Take a closer look at the detail. You'll notice that Georgian door handles were designed with a strong sense of geometry and balance. They often featured clean, crisp lines and repeated patterns, which aligned with the broader principles of Georgian design. Common shapes included ovals, rectangles, and even suns. These handles were also sized according to their purpose. For instance, those on the front door were larger and more elaborate, serving as a kind of welcoming gesture to visitors. In contrast, interior handles were usually more understated, prioritizing functionality over ostentatious display. Moving on to the Victorian era, we're treated to a spectacle of that. This period was a melting pot of influences, from Gothic to Eastlake, resulting in a kaleidoscope of design choices. Cast iron suddenly became a popular material for doorknobs, allowing for intricate and detailed designs that were both charming and ornamental. Picture whimsical knobs shaped like flowers, leaves, or even mythical creatures adorning the doors of Victorian homes. It was a time when doorknobs went beyond being functional and transformed into miniature works of art. Victorian era marked a significant departure from the restrained elegance of previous periods. Instead, we see a celebration of excess and individuality. Keyhole-shaped doorknobs emerged as a prominent feature in Victorian homes. These knobs not only served as a means to open doors, but also became decorative elements, showcasing the homeowner's unique taste. And who could forget the Edwardian era, the final chapter of our Victorian adventure? Named after King Edward VII, This period witnessed a surge in modernization and industrialization. Doorknobs during this time reflected these changes with a fusion of traditional craftsmanship and new technologies. Enamel and porcelain doorknobs became popular, offering a wide range of colors and patterns that added a touch of whimsy to homes. The introduction of glass, whether in the form of stained glass or simply as insets within the knobs, allowed for even more creative expression. These knobs were no longer just functional accessories. They were canvases for artistic expression. Imagine walking into a room and seeing a doorknob adorned with a stained glass window or a hand-painted design. It's a delightful surprise that speaks to the creativity of the era. The 20th century ushered in an array of styles, each with its own unique take on doorknob design. Let's explore the key trends that define this period. The mid-century modern movement brought with it a revolution in design. Doorknobs became simplified, sleek, and futuristic. Materials like stainless steel and chrome became popular, reflecting the era's fascination with technology and progress. Clean, geometric shapes dominated, with many knobs resembling oversized buttons or spheres. Picture a shiny, chrome doorknob gleaming in the light. Its minimalist design, a perfect complement to the streamlined furniture of the era. The postmodern era marked a departure from the strict lines and muted tones of modernism. It was a time for playfulness and experimentation. Doorknobs during this period often incorporated bold colors, unusual shapes, and even playful patterns. Think of a bright red doorknob with a quirky pattern, or a knob shaped like an abstract sculpture. These whimsical touches added a dose of fun and personality to homes. But wait, there's more. Let's add another layer to our exploration. Doorknobs are not just about aesthetics. They're also a reflection of the values and concerns of each era. For example, during the Victorian era, when hygiene became a growing concern, doorknobs were designed with hygiene in mind. Some knobs were produced with a tubular design that prevented the accumulation of dirt and germs, making them easier to clean. This innovation may seem mundane, but it reflects the changing attitudes towards sanitation and public health during this time. Now, for a sneak peek into a collector's haven, if you're lucky enough to stumble upon an antique shop or an estate sale, you might find vintage doorknobs waiting to be discovered. These hidden gems can be not only beautiful, but also incredibly affordable. And here's a pro tip. If you do find an old set of doorknobs, check for any markings or stamps. They could indicate the age or the manufacturer, helping you to date and potentially value your find. Who knows? You might just unearth a piece of history that will make your home stand out from the rest. Doorknobs, those small yet significant details that connect us to the past. They narrate tales of eras gone by through their design, material, and craftsmanship. Whether you're a homeowner looking to restore an old property or a design enthusiast, keep an eye out for these vintage treasures. You never know what stories they might hold. Do you have a special connection with a particular era's doorknob style? Or maybe you have some vintage doorknobs in your home. Share your thoughts and experiences with us. And don't forget to stay tuned for more journeys through time via Architectural Savvy. Until next time, the clank of tools rings through a London workshop as silversmiths bend, twist, and polish an array of intricate designs. On a table lays a simple brass knob. A craftsman picks it up and examines it closely, then begins to transform its shape. He uses a file to carve away at its rounded contours, sharpening each curve and edge. As he works, he occasionally stops to wipe the sweat from his brow and adjust the piece in his hands. Finally, he sets it down and steps back to admire his work. This is the story of the doorknob, once an overlooked fixture, now a captivating element of interior design. In the heart of 18th century England, amidst the bustling workshops of London and the grand estates of the countryside, a revolution was underway. The humble doorknob was undergoing a dramatic transformation, evolving from a simple functional device to a symbol of wealth, power, and taste. This is the second episode of our series exploring the history of everyday objects, and today we're going to explore how this seemingly insignificant piece of hardware became a powerful design statement during the Georgian era. Our story begins in the drawing rooms and hallways of grand country houses where the elite of Georgian England resided. These magnificent homes were not just places of habitation, but also stages for displaying one's status and refinement. For the wealthy elite, their homes were a reflection of their social standing, and they spared no expense in adorning them with the finest furnishings and accessories. This was particularly true when it came to their doors, which were often considered the gateway to a room, and thus an opportunity to make a grand entrance. Amongst the many ways to adorn a door, one stood out as the epitome of elegance and sophistication: the door handle, or more specifically, the lever handle. At first glance, the lever handle might seem like a simple and practical choice. After all, it served the essential function of opening and closing doors with ease. However, for those who lived during the Georgian era, the lever handle was so much more than just a functional accessory. It was a symbol of power, wealth, and good taste. The lever handle allowed its user to enter a room or exit it without having to exert any force, making it ideal for those who prided themselves on their gentility and refinement. A gentleman could open a door with a single finger, demonstrating his wealth and status without having to resort to using his shoulder or even his forehead, as some had done in the past. The lever handle therefore became a coveted accessory among the upper classes, with the wealthiest individuals vying to acquire the most elaborate and exquisite handles for their homes. As the demand for lever handles grew, so did the creativity and ingenuity of the artisans who crafted them. Metalworkers across England experimented with different shapes, sizes, and materials to create handles that were not only functional, but also highly decorative. Some handles were designed to resemble mythical creatures such as dragons or griffins, while others took inspiration from plants and flowers. The most popular handles, however, were those that featured intricate and delicate designs that showcased the skill and craftsmanship of the maker. These handles were often made from the finest brass or even silver, and were adorned with engravings and patterns that were so detailed and intricate that they took hours to complete. Each handle was a miniature work of art in itself, a testament to the talent and dedication of the artisan who had created it. One of the most notable features of these ornate handles was their shape. Unlike the simple round knobs that had been used for centuries, lever handles offered a more elegant and sophisticated alternative. They were typically shaped like elongated drops or S-curves, which not only looked more refined, but also provided a more comfortable grip. The handles were often mounted on intricately designed plates that added to the overall aesthetic appeal of the door. These plates were usually made from the same material as the handle, and featured embossed patterns or engraved designs that echoed those found on the handle itself. The result was a cohesive and harmonious look that was highly prized by Georgian homeowners. But the trend towards elaborate door handles wasn't limited to the upper classes alone. As the popularity of this style grew, more and more people began to incorporate lever handles into their homes, albeit with more modest designs and materials. For middle-class households, brass handles with simple engravings became a common sight, while the wealthy continued to push the boundaries of design and By the end of the Georgian era, door handles had become a highly sought-after item for homeowners across England. They were no longer just functional accessories, but had evolved into symbols of wealth, power, and individual expression. From the intricate designs of the elite to the more understated elegance of the middle class, lever handles had become an integral part of the Georgian lifestyle. Our story takes us now to the bustling city of Birmingham, where a skilled metalworker named Joseph was crafting some of the finest lever handles of his day. His workshop was filled with the sounds of hammering, sawing, and polishing as he and his apprentices worked tirelessly to meet the demands of their customers. Joseph had developed a particular talent for creating handles with delicate and intricate designs that were highly prized by the wealthy homeowners of London. He used a variety of techniques to create his masterpieces, including die sinking, chasing, and engraving. Each handle that he produced was a testament to his skill and craftsmanship, and he took great pride in his work. One day, a wealthy landowner from the countryside visited Joseph's workshop in search of some exquisite door handles for his newly renovated mansion. He had heard about Joseph's talent and had come specifically to commission some unique pieces. After discussing the project with Joseph, it was decided that the handles would be made from the finest brass and feature designs inspired by nature. Joseph and his apprentices got to work, and within weeks they had produced some of the most beautiful door handles that had ever been seen in the countryside. The handles were shaped like graceful swans, their necks curving elegantly and their bodies adorned with intricate patterns that mimicked the veins of a leaf. The effect was so realistic that it was almost as if the swans were about to take flight. When the landowner saw the finished product, he was absolutely delighted. The handles were even more magnificent than he had imagined, and he immediately paid Joseph a handsome sum for his work. News of Joseph's exceptional craftsmanship spread like wildfire, and soon he was receiving commissions from all over England. His door handles became highly sought after, and he was able to expand his workshop and hire more apprentices to help him meet the demand. Yet despite his success, Joseph never forgot the importance of quality and craftsmanship. He continued to work tirelessly, honing his skills and experimenting with new techniques, and as the years passed, his reputation as a master metalworker only grew. Our tale concludes in the stately manner of Lord Harrington, who had recently undergone a major renovation and was eager to furnish his home with the latest fashions. He had already adorned the walls with Chinese wallpaper and filled his rooms with exotic plants, but something was still missing, a touch of elegance and sophistication that would bring his home up to date with the latest trend. As he strolled through the halls, Lord Harrington noticed that his plain brass doorknobs were in dire need of an update. They were heavy, difficult to turn, and clashed with the refined atmosphere he had created in the rest of the house. That est, when he remembered a visit he had made to a friend's house where he had seen the most exquisite door handles. He immediately dispatched his servant to procure the finest leather handles money could buy. When the handles arrived, Lord Harrington had them installed throughout his entire house. The transformation was immediate and dramatic. The heavy, cumbersome knobs were replaced with sleek, elegant handles that turned smoothly and effortlessly. They were shaped like graceful swans, their necks curving gracefully and their bodies adorned with intricate patterns that mirrored the wallpaper in each room. The effect was nothing short of magical. The handles seemed to float on the walls, and their presence gave the rooms an air of sophistication and refinement that had been missing before. From that day forward, Lord Harrington's house was the talk of the town. Visitors marveled at the elegant simplicity of the leather handles and the overall transformation of the house, and Lord Harrington basked in the admiration, knowing that he had made the perfect finishing touch to his newly renovated home. And so the story of the doorknob continued to evolve, reflecting the changing tastes and preferences of society. Yet throughout it all, the Georgian era marked a pivotal point in the history of this humble fixture, transforming it from a simple functional accessory to a symbol of wealth, power, and good taste. The intricate designs and elegant simplicity of the lever handle became a defining feature of Georgian architecture, leaving an enduring legacy that continues to influence interior design to this day. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time to explore the fascinating history of the door. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories about everyday objects. Until next time, keep an eye out for the hidden histories that surround us all. A closer look at hardware design in the 18th century. This is part of a series about the evolution of door hardware. Today, we'll be looking at Georgian door handles. All right, welcome back, everybody. I am your host, and you are watching this channel. All right, let's get right into it. Here we are in Thomas Yardley's architectural study in London in the year 1755. The room is light and airy. Stacks of parchment paper are organized beside sliding rulers, and a cup of ink sits next to precise sketches of facades. The room itself is symmetrical. Well, almost obsessively so. Enter Thomas Yardley, an architect in his 40s who is rising in the ranks of Georgian society. Yardley has a reserved demeanor, and he approaches his craft with military precision. He picks up a pair of compasses and places them against a sheet labeled Door Hardware Alignment Principle Entry. He measures the placement of the door handle, drawing a rectangle for a backplate and then a perfectly centered oval. No part of the house, he murmurs to himself, must be less considered than another. The door, after all, must be a promise. Now, just as the mid-Georgian years saw the Rococo curve evolve into neoclassical severity, so too did the shape of the doorknob. During these years, the era of enlightenment, Georgian homes reflected a renewed focus on reason, mathematics, and balance. So too did their smallest details. So let's take a look at this beautiful example. We have a slow pan of a front door. Notice how it follows the rules of Georgian design. The door features symmetrical panels, a classical transom window, and a fan light above. At the base of the fan light, we find the handle. Now, this is a simple D-shaped lever handle, a very common design during the early years of Georgian architecture. It features a gentle curve that invites the hand to rest while still providing a strong hold. Now, notice the back. The design is rectangular and features a beaded edging. This style of handle and backplate embodies the Georgian aesthetic perfectly. In fact, we'll see this design repeated many times in our travels today. Let's go ahead and pop back into our story. Our man, Thomas Yardley, has been inspired by the designs of his predecessor, the great English architect Christopher Wren. In fact, he has been studying Wren's work closely. Like Wren, Yardley is a surveyor and draftsman of some renown. Both men served under King Charles II, which makes them courtiers of a sort. As such, they are responsible for upholding standards of proper decorum in both architecture and life. For them, doors and windows are portals through which one passes in order to enter a sacred space. As Yardley has put it, a house is a progressive series of cubicle rooms, all proportioned to each other, adapted to the business they are to be used for, and constructed in a regular manner. And so our story will trace the growth of one of the most important details of those portals, the handle. Back in the time of old, when doors were made of heavy wood and leather, the simplest thing would serve as a handle, perhaps a ring, a knob, or a hook. But as doors grew larger and stronger, so too did the need for specialized hardware. And so the first iteration of the Georgian handle emerged. These early handles took on a variety of shapes, including the now familiar S-shaped design, as well as more organic forms inspired by nature. However, it was the D-shaped handle that truly stood out as a symbol of the Georgian era. Its gentle curves signaled a sense of refinement and control, reflecting the values of the time. And it was this handle that became synonymous with Georgian architecture. As the mid-Georgian years progressed, the designs became more intricate. Ornate backplates and escutcheons adorned the walls around the handles, adding a touch of elegance to the entryway. In fact, the escutcheon, the fancy metal plate that conceals the fasteners behind the door, became a design element in its own right. During the Georgian era, these devices were commonly stamped with bedandrial patterns, incised florals, and rope borders. These flourishes gave each door a unique identity, setting it apart from the others and adding visual interest to the home's exterior. But it wasn't just about aesthetics. The design of the handle and backplate also had practical applications. The shape and size of the handle determined how easily it could be grasped and manipulated. Meanwhile, the backplate helped to reinforce the door and prevent the handle from loosening over time. Georgian designers understood the importance of both form and function, and they applied that principle to every aspect of their work, even the smallest detail. Let us pop in on a hardware designer in Birmingham in the year 1762. The shop is filled with dozens of wooden samples, iron sketches, and wax castings. The designer runs a small business, turning out high-quality hardware that is sold throughout the region. He is currently working on a set of handles for a local church. In order to ensure that each handle is perfect, he tests the way the hand settles on each prototype. "See here?" he says to his apprentice. "Square handles feel abrupt. Octagonal too. Severe but oval. The hand trusts it." He hands a smooth, egg-shaped brass handle to a customer. She closes her hand around it, smiling. "These are perfect," she says. "They're exactly what I was hoping for." The designer beams. He knows that he has created something special, and that's because shape was everything. A good Georgian handle invited the hand forward. It anticipated motion. It encouraged pause, but not struggle. It whispered promises of easy passage. During the Georgian era, architects began to experiment with new materials, particularly cast iron and wrought iron. These metals allowed for more intricate and elaborate designs that celebrated the decorative possibilities of the handle. One popular motif was the acorn, which symbolized the wealth and prosperity of the time. Another common theme was the flower, which represented beauty and refinement. These designs not only added visual interest, but also served as a form of identity, allowing homeowners to display their status and tastes. What's more, the placement of the handle was also carefully considered. Unlike the haphazard mounting of previous eras, Georgian designers specified exact heights for handles, typically between 36 and 38 inches from the threshold. This ensured consistency and made it easier for visitors to navigate the home. And so the handle became a key element in the Georgian aesthetic. Symbolizing the values and beliefs of the time, it represented the shift towards rationality and order, as well as the growing importance of domestic architecture. In fact, the handle played a crucial role in shaping the Georgian home. It was not just a functional device, but a decorative element that contributed to the overall harmony and balance of the interior. The placement of the handle was also carefully considered, ensuring consistency and ease of use. To walk past a Georgian street was to walk past the music of metal and symmetry. Each handle and knocker mounted at precisely the same height, inviting the passerby to join in the harmonious rhythm of the age. One crisp fall evening in 1768, a professor makes his way to his private study. He reaches for the recessed teardrop hole handle carved into the mahogany panel. He hesitates for a moment, half to himself, muttering, "Less is more, and more is vulgar." With a gentle click, he steps into the library, closing the door behind him. Inside, he is surrounded by his books and papers. Light streams in through the window, illuminating the rich colors of the wood paneling. Suddenly, a knock on the door breaks the silence. The professor turns to see a visitor standing in the doorway. "Can I help you?" he asks. The visitor explains that he is there to discuss a particular detail of the house, the door handles and knockers. "I want to know why they are so small," he says. The professor smiles. "It is because I believe that less is more," he replies, "and more is vulgar." In truth, the professor has been thinking about this for some time. He has noticed how the small details of a house can make a big impact, and he believes that simplicity and elegance are the key to good design. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that little story I wrote for you today. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, you should check out my video on the Great Exhibition of 1851. That was an incredible event in history, and it really shaped the course of design and technology for centuries to come. In the dim oil lamp glow of 1778 London, a customer steps inside a hardware shop filled with brass fittings and gleaming curiosities. On the counter sits a wooden tray with a simple white card, "New arrival, brass door knobs." Behind the counter, a merchant beams proudly. "Nah! Handle, sir! Knobs imported! Turned rather than pulled. Revolutionary, if I may say so." He picks up a smooth bun-shaped knob, solid brass, with a subtle rose-shaped rosette at its base. "How do you use it?" asks the customer. "With a turn, sir. No levers. Just symmetry and motion," says the merchant. With a dramatic flourish, he turns the knob. "Welcome to this house. I'm the host. Today we are exploring the history of the door." Before we begin, Please take a moment to subscribe and click the bell icon to receive every notification. By the 1770s, the handle gave way to the knob, a quiet but bold shift. The once horizontal act of entry became a twist, an innovation born of symmetry, convenience, and increasing industrial precision. Now, let us turn our knobs and step through time. It is 1778 in Cambridge. A young scholar strides purposefully toward a heavy oak door. He pushes it open and steps inside. Discreetly, he wipes his hand on his waistcoat before turning a similarly heavy, delicately crafted round glass knob, affixed with a floral brass rosette. As the 18th century dawned, the handle had become outdated, rustic, cumbersome, unequal to the demands of the rising middle class who sought efficiency in all aspects of their lives, including entry to a room. The horizontal bar, while useful, had its limitations. First, it required two hands. Second, its position was fixed, necessitating awkward angles and approaches. Third, it lacked any real security. Finally, with no clear distinction between indoor and outdoor fittings, one was always chilled entering a room from the elements, especially in drafty holes. Then around 1730, London cabinet makers and hardware dealers began to experiment with an alternative, inspired by the Rococo aesthetic and championed by masters such as John Chubbuck and William Chambers. The rounded knob promised not just a solution to these problems, but an elegant one. Initially derived from French prototypes, these knobs were fashioned from brass and designed to be mounted on doors or window shutters. One example, a pair of gilt brass knobs with leaf and flower enriched rosettes on sale in 2016, can be traced back to a drawing in a 1734 edition of the London Magazine, aptly titled A New Invention. The knob quickly caught on. By the 1770s, England, France, and Germany were producing them in quantity. Though round knobs demanded a new kind of engagement, the hand wrapped instead of grasped, entry became tactile personal. And so over the next few decades, a parade of knobs emerged. Some reeded circular ridges catching the candlelight. Others ceramic, like this one, with a tiny hand-painted blue rose. Then cut glass crystal ones that refracted light like a prism, perfect for a boot. Or an octagonal knob subtly faceted, early neo. Hollow or solid, simple or ornate, they came in brass, bronze, glass, porcelain, you name it. The bun shape reigned, gentle on the hand, clean in silhouette. The Georgian eye adored the circle, infinite, balanced, divine. The writer pauses, mesmerized. In this display of finery, Lady Tremblay hosts a dinner party in the drawing room of her Bristol townhouse. Her guests are impressed. As they enter the dining room, an ornately carved stone fireplace dominates one wall opposite double doors set between floor-to-ceiling curtains. Did I just open the door with a gem? Chuckles a guest, referring to the doorknob which matches the chandelier. Indeed, sir, replies Lady Tremblay. From France? Supposed to evoke domestic jewelry. Each room, its own design vocabulary, yet the doorknobs tie it together, creating a dialogue between old and new, function and fashion. But the knob became more than mechanism. It became, in affluent homes, knobs were coordinated with wall brackets, balustrades, even fire irons. While on the streets, tradesmen might shine up their brass knobs each morning, a ritualistic start to the day. And inside, servants dashed about with trays of refreshment, passing through doorways secured by an adorned but perfectly functional brass knobs, round, perfectly smooth. Back in the kitchens of the same house, a plainer brass knob sits on a back kitchen door, still round, still perfectly functional, yet far removed from the elegance of those adorning the drawing room. For the working classes, knobs were often made of iron and left unpainted. Though the wealthier citizens could afford fancier materials, throughout the 18th century, manufacturers produced knobs for every budget and taste. But the revolution wasn't just aesthetic. The knob simplified mechanics. It allowed for standardization of spindle shafts, mortise locks, and interior fittings. This detail contributed significantly to the quiet closing of doors, a boon in close quarters. And when combined with a spring latch, the knob ensured that doors would stay shut until intentionally opened. No more musty entryways or drafts. In the 1770s, innovations in casting and machining meant that manufacturers could produce knobs in greater quantities with more intricate designs. Factories and workshops across England churned out an array of styles. One maker, John Folson, patented a method of manufacturing knobs and plates in a single piece. Others experimented with hollow chambers within the knob to reduce weight and material costs. In Birmingham, metalworkers toiled in penny foundries, producing an array of knobs. 35 today, says a foreman, wiping sweat from his brow. Keep him hollow for light doors, solid for street entry, precision and progress. A symphony of industry. Now let us turn our attention to a workshop of the late 1770s, where a technician works on a test rig, a spring-loaded hammer that repeatedly turns a brass knob attached to a wooden board. See how she gives and resets? He asks his assistant. That's progress. You don't fight the door anymore. It cooperates. So by the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, the doorknob had come a long way, and in the years ahead, it would only get better. The ambiguity of the handle replaced by the clarity of the knob. Doors throughout Britain and beyond now close quietly and latched securely with one twist. It is early morning on a typical Georgian street. Milk cans line the wall beside a row of identical brass knobs, each slightly different, some polished, some dulled by weather. A milkman pauses, admiring one that gleams perfectly. Someone's up early with vinegar polish, he says to himself. In an academic study, a writer finishes a page, extinguishes the candle, and opens the door. Engraved with a sunburst, he steps out, leaving the soft glow illuminating the empty desk behind him. As the 18th century progressed, symbolism found its way onto knobs. Circles evoked order, continuity, the cosmos. A round knob said, "This home is whole. This threshold, intentional." And so we find ourselves at the end of our tour. Join us next time to explore another facet of Georgian design. Until then, we invite you to engage with our content. Share your thoughts and feedback. Your comments enrich our journey through time. Thank you for joining us today.